Mercedes have got a really tricky choice now because they already have a development program in hand. So we know that there's a new floor coming for the next race. So we don't know how big a step that is. But if you were to change anything on the car, the floor would be the thing that you would change first. We know there's this much talked about Imola upgrade. Now, this came to light pre-season during testing, and they said, yes, we've got a big update coming, which is not unusual for Mercedes, and it didn't sound like it was a reaction to any problems they were having in the car. And they were talking again about the side pods and some of the car concept changing ever so slightly. So we've got that in the pipeline already. And now you've got Toto and Lewis saying that we're going to develop a completely new concept for this car to make it win races. And you do wonder how much these kind of, snappy comments in the press are related to what the engineers are doing, and James Allison and, everyone else back at Brackley trying to decide what do we need to do to get this car to be competitive. And, you would have to guess, given their success over the past sort of decade, that they know how to do that. So, there's almost like a civil war going on.
But I mean, and
Mercedes.
compounded by the budget cap. And my question to you is, even if everyone was united in thinking, yeah, we got to ditch this and we're going to a completely new Red Bull, Aston Martin concept, how will that work within their budget spend anyway? That's a massive rebuild, right? Reboot.
It is. I mean, it's, there's two ways you can tackle it. I mean, it could be mainly an aero update to the car and the suspension, which under the budget cap is kind of doable from let's make the bodywork and change the suspension components perspective. But then you think, well, they need this out quickly, or else there's no point spending all of that money. And then you've then got the aero testing restrictions, which of course, they're good finish, albeit third last year, will really restrict them. So they can't just suddenly pile on loads of wind tunnel testing, which is what you would need to do, or wind tunnel and CFD, I should add, in order to find a new concept, to get it working, find the right concept as well, not just, pluck one out of random and then develop it to a stage where it's better than something that's already been quite well optimized. That's the problem. That's the thing that's going to hold them back. It's going to take them half a season to get the aero work completed before they start putting, bits and pieces into production. Not to mention, obviously, all the rig work, which isn't as restricted in terms of suspension as much, but it is that problem they have between the suspension and the aero that is kind of a fundamental problem that they're having. So it's a big issue. The only good point is if they do put a huge effort into this year, next year's regulations are going to be very much the same. I don't know of any changes for 2024 at this stage, certainly nothing considerable like we've had with the floor over the winter. So any work they put in this year will pay off next year. So, are they going to go for a good second half of the season and a great 2024? Yeah, that's a big risk. And that's a big piece of work. I don't know if going kind of B-spec car is necessarily the right direction for where they're at this stage.
And I still question how glib George is when he said it's just a simple question of putting more downforce on the front and the rear, because in reality, if it was that simple, they'd have it on anyway. I mean, obviously there's a compromise to every bit of downforce you put on the car.
Yeah.
What will it do to top speed? What will it do potentially to vertical oscillation? And you'd imagine they're running it compromised optimization anyway right now.
Exactly. I mean,
and he's out there saying, oh yeah, we can just crank on more downforce.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, we've seen during testing, they ran that big rear wing, which gave them the downforce. When they put their lower drag race wing on over the Grand Prix weekend, their straight line speed certainly improved, and we didn't see any bouncing, but, tire degradation increased, and you didn't really see the performance. They need to be getting this performance from the underfloor, which is a big piece of work. And as I've said, and perhaps George didn't really touch on, is that means the suspension needs to change as well, because fundamentally that's where their issues lie.
There's so many ways we can go from here, but I think we should look at Ferrari now. I don't know what you felt when suddenly we saw Charles pulling off to the side of the track with P3 in sight. I mean, we all thought they were over their reliability issues, and it looks to be some sort of electronic power unit drama, but he said lost power. Have we got any thoughts on what might be going on there?
Well, there isn't anything clear from Ferrari. What we saw is that the engine didn't appear to blow up. He lost power, which is a different thing. His dashboard was still lit up, so that doesn't mean it was some massive hybrid battery power failure, which a lot of people are suggesting it was. And also, quite interestingly, a message came up on the dashboard as the car started to slow, was pit for refill. Now, that would suggest a similar problem to what Lando Norris was having, which was the system inside the valves, where the F1 engines don't run coil valve springs, they run pneumatic springs. And that needs topping up if there's a problem. Now, that could just be because the engine was winding down on the overrun with no ignition and fuel running. So we honestly don't know, but that is added to a change in battery and control electronics for Leclerc before the race, which is why a lot of people are looking at the hybrid system as the cause. It's worrying that, they've had potentially two issues, maybe connected, maybe not, in the first race. Obviously, Carlos had a cleaner run, but equally, Carlos had other issues with the car. So, we just don't know. But, power unit problems is going to be a big worry for Ferrari, having done all that work through last year and over the winter. And then, just generally, the car is kind of there, but not really having that last bit of performance to really challenge the Red Bulls in a meaningful way in qualifying or the race. And that seems to come down to at the rear end. They seem to suffer with traction. They clearly suffered with quite high tyre degradation. If they want to go for a championship, the moment you don't see where that would come from.